Okay, what's up, everyone? Swinging Bull here with PB Alerts. By the way, my name is Benjamin. Wasn't sure if anyone was curious what my real name was, but most people call me Ben. But anyways, here with PB Alerts and another one of my earnings stream. Yesterday, we had Tesla and Google. Today, we got Intel and Newmont, ticker symbol NEM. Of course, most people are going to be here for Intel. Just a little look back at what Tesla and Google did yesterday. Tesla trying to find the bottom finally in intraday today. They basically hit just above $300 a share. They weren't able to catch a bottom last night or this morning. Well, kind of traded sideways this morning, but had another leg down at market open. I think some people made some money on some puts on that this morning on the Discord. Finally looking like it wants to bottom out. This is the 15-minute chart. So, and we'll just see if this is the bottom. We'll be looking for higher lows to start printing from here. Google was pretty volatile when their earnings released. There's wick down, wick up, and then it finally made a move up and caught a bid. And it's kind of retracing a little bit now. I retraced about maybe 50% of the rally from yesterday and this morning. So it's hanging up right here, trading at 192, some change. We'll see if they can hold this level here. Like I said, it's probably retraced about 50%, so maybe that's why it's bouncing a little bit here intraday today. But again, same thing with this. Just keep your eye out for some higher lows. If some of these horizontal levels start breaking, and obviously that's not a higher low, and it's probably going to come down a little further. So yeah, just a little kind of recap of the price action from Tesla and Google from yesterday's earnings. So let's go to Intel and Newmont. Of course, Intel's the more popular one. They've had quite a year of all kinds of things going on with their company, CEO, and all kinds of stuff. But looks like they're getting a reaction already. So they must have reported at 4 p.m. Eastern, which was just a couple minutes ago. Let me just take a look at a few things here. Let me see if I can minimize that a little bit. Keep the price of Intel on the left there. So Intel EPS forecast. Actually, let me just pull this up real quick. I'm on earnings whispers, and just wait for that to load up. But okay, here we go. INTC. There we go. So got some volatility. It's wicking up, wicking down. It is green in after hours. Closed the regular session at $22.61 a share. Go back here. So the forecast EPS was 0.01, and the forecast revenue was 11.87 billion. And they were trading above their anchored VWAP. Anchored VWAP's right around 21 a share. So it's catching some positive momentum now. There are some buyers in the picture. Let me check my other screen and see if I can get the reported EPS and revenue, and then we'll go from there. Did want to check real quick when NEM reports. Let's take a look. NEM. I'll keep Intel on the right. All right, I do have the results for Intel. So we go ahead and just move this over real quick. A little graphic here. So again, the forecast EPS was 0.01. They missed EPS by quite a bit. Reported EPS negative 0.10. Obviously, that's not phasing investors. It's sitting green here in after hours so far. A bit volatile, though. You can tell from the wicks on these candles. Forecast revenue 11.88 billion. They did beat revenue by quite a bit, by almost $1 billion. So good on Intel for that. I think that's what investors are liking, is that nice beat on the revenue there. So forecast was 11.88 billion. They just reported 12.85 billion, beat by 8%. Of course, the EPS year over year looks terrible, 600% down. But revenue up year over year, and also revenue is up quarter over quarter. But EPS is just kind of the bad little spot that they have here. But I think investors were more focused on revenue, and they definitely beat that, and it's up. So let's see if there's anything else I can find for data on this. Let me go back over here and take a look at a few other things real quick. And let me check the price of NEM. Okay, NEM is getting a little volatile. This is Newmont Corporation, their non-energy minerals and precious metals company. Okay, so let me check back on INTC just for a second. All right, so let's see here. Forecast, this is for Intel, forecasting third quarter 2025 revenue of 12.6 billion to 13.6 billion. Taking actions to drive improved execution and efficiency, continue to target 17 billion of non-GAAP operating expenses in 2025 and 16 billion in 2026, $18 billion in gross capital expenditures for 2025. And let's just see here, a couple statements from Intel CEO. Okay, Intel's retracing all the way back down here. So initial positive reaction, and now it's coming back down. So let me just a couple notes here from the CEO. It's kind of a new CEO, Lip Bu Tan, and he said, "Our operating performance demonstrates the initial progress we are making to improve our execution and drive greater efficiency. We are laser focused on strengthening our core product portfolio and our AI roadmap to better serve customers. We're also taking the actions needed to build a more financially disciplined foundry. It's going to take time, but we see clear opportunities to enhance our competitive position and improve our profitability and create long-term shareholder value." That's the CEO. The CFO, whose name is David Zinsner, excuse me. "Our results reflect solid demand across our business and good execution on our priorities. The changes we are making to reduce our operating costs, improve our capital efficiency, and monetize non-core assets are having a positive impact as we work to strengthen our balance sheet and position the business for the future." So I got some remarks there from the CEO and the CFO. And Intel also announced that they're going to lay off 15% of their employees. So that is kind of breaking news there. And let's take a look at a few other things. So that's why the stock, we got some volatility going on with Intel right now. Initial positive reaction. Now it's kind of retraced back down. Let me go to Webull just for a second. Yeah, look at these 5-minute candles. This red 5-minute it's printing right now is about to retrace this whole green candle. So it kind of did already, and then there's a little bit of dip buyers there. It's got a bottom wick, but order book's kind of even with buyers and sellers. So we'll see if it ends up going back up. Let's see if maybe again, maybe it prints a higher low. I'm not going to count this bottom wick. This was just a little bit of volatility when the earnings first came out. Kind of wicked down to 21.92, and then it came all the way up to $24 a share. And then the candle came all the way back down and closed just above where it opened. So that was a pretty good indecision candle. A little bit of bias to the bulls on that one, I suppose, because it's green. But yeah, kind of sloppy price action, these first few candle prints. Then it went ahead and made a move up. The buyers took control there. Then came all the way back down, almost retraced 100% back to 22.75. This thing closed the regular session at 22.63. So yeah, it's basically just retraced back down. Now buyers are in the picture. Let's see if it forms a higher low. This is the 1-minute chart. After quite a few more of these 1-minute candles print, I'll probably switch to a higher time frame. But RSI is at 58. There's still a bull signal on the MACD. So we'll see. But they missed EPS, but they did get a solid beat on revenue. I think that's a big part of the positive buying that we're seeing a little bit, because technically it's still green in after hours, even though it's a bit volatile. It's working on a red candle right now, but it's up over 2%, about 50 cents a share. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything else before we move on to NEM, because I think the data on NEM is probably out. Let's just take a look real quick. Matter of fact, let me close that down and see if I can pull it up on this one. There we go, NEM. Okay, NEM. Yep. So they reported at 4:05 p.m. Eastern. That was about 5 minutes ago. Their forecast EPS was $1.06, and their forecast revenue 4.62 billion. Yoloman on YouTube, thanks for covering Intel's earnings. Yeah, absolutely, no problem. And we got a bit more to talk about, and because I got data coming in as I'm talking right now, so I'll definitely share that with everyone. But overall, I'm really liking their revenue beat. I think that's what investors really wanted to see with this earnings is, are they not only still making good revenue, but can they beat the forecast? And with all the unknowns with the CEO that they had this year, and now finally they have a CEO, and he's trying to right the ship and get Intel heading in the right direction. A lot of people are saying that they're kind of severely behind on the AI game, but no one knows what the future brings, and no one knows the deep down stuff that the CEO has planned for the company. And the new CEO does have some credibility within the space, and he absolutely could turn the company around. I mean, it's Intel. It's got a huge name. They've been around for a long time. Just look at the income statement and look at the revenue. I mean, they're still bringing in 12 billion to 14 billion in revenue every quarter. The year over year numbers could be better, but what the new CEO is, they need to try and get, he needs to try and get the company back to profitability, and that's what he's going to be working on. And so don't count out Intel. Definitely wouldn't do that. But let's look at some more data here. And this was back to their them cutting their workforce. They do plan to end the year with core workforce of about 75,000 employees. Okay, and that's due to workforce reductions and attrition. And let's take a look at some other things. All right. So again, Intel did miss the EPS. Now, I do want to talk about the Q3 outlook. So a little bit of guidance here. They basically said they announced the Q3 adjusted EPS is basically break even, 0.00. The estimate on that was 0.04. So it looks like they lowered the Q3 guidance, which is never a good thing. But it's not all bad. I mean, look at the stock price. I mean, at least it's not tanking and selling off. I don't want to speak too soon, but they did lower the Q3 guidance. And as far as the Q3 revenue, they reported they're expecting 12.6 billion to 13.6 billion. And the estimate on that was 12.6 billion, no range on the estimate. So it looks like they did revise the Q3 revenue outlook upwards. So it's not all bad here, and revenue is a big driving force with a company like this. And so they had a very nice beat on revenue. Investors are liking it. Could it be rallying a little more? Of course it could. But the data's out, and the revenue looks good. So it is holding up, and it is green in after hours. It's up 3%. I didn't quite check what the expected move was going to be for this, but again, it's up 3%, about 67 cents a share. Of course, it's changing as the after hours is live right now. But so they reduced Q3 guidance for EPS, but we all know they got an issue with the EPS. I mean, they didn't beat forecast on this one, and they've had issues beating it in the past. But so that's not really too big of an issue for investors. I don't think it's not anything out of the norm. But them beating the revenue forecast this go around and raising their Q3 revenue outlook, I think is a very positive thing. And it might not get it to catch a bid and rally and go to the moon or whatever, but it's not selling off. It's remaining relatively stable. So I don't really think of this as like a negative thing at all, as far as them missing EPS and the fact that they're not rallying hard right now. They're holding up. They're up almost 3% now. So let's keep our eyes on it. There are buyers in the picture, and I think it's gaining interest because they increased their revenue outlook. Let's look at a few other things. Couple other highlights of the earnings, if you will. Intel will no longer move forward with planned projects in Germany and Poland. So they're pulling out of those projects. Could that be a problem with their growth and expansion type deals? Yeah, but it could also be looked at in another way, that they're pulling out of those projects and they're not going to be diverting funds to those projects anymore, and it probably frees up some capital for them to put towards something that's more of a focus for them. So I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing either. It just kind of depends what side of the coin you're looking at, right? Couple other keynotes. Intel intends to consolidate assembly and test operations in Costa Rica into larger sites in Vietnam and Malaysia. All right, so just a little tidbit of information there. And lastly, Intel will further slow pace of construction in Ohio to ensure spending is aligned with market demand. All right, so they're just going to be keeping a close eye on the spending with the construction going on in Ohio. All right, so just some good information there about their earnings and what was released. Let's see if we got some other metrics, some key metrics. Cash from operations, 2.1 billion. So this company is a $1 billion company. There's been talks on social media when they were having issues with this, the CEO issues and stuff like that, about just negative stuff. And I mean, I firmly believe Intel is probably going to be okay. They got a new CEO. He's got plans. He's going to try and turn the company around. They're doing cost cutting measures right now. They're reducing their workforce, which I know it's going to cause some people to lose their jobs. But as far as the company goes, that's going to be some cost cutting measures there. They're going to slow down the expenditures for the construction in Ohio. They're backing out of the Poland deal, and I think it was Germany and Poland, the deals they had going on over there. They're backing out of those. So these are all cost cutting measures so that they can redivert funds to what's more important, and that's probably going to be some of their more important products that they've had. So already read the commentary from the CEO and CFO. Just one more statement though from the CEO. Our operating performance demonstrates the initial progress we are making to improve our execution and drive greater efficiency. All right, so that kind of a little side note from the CEO. And again, so this is the summary on Intel. They missed EPS. They beat revenue. All right, they beat revenue by almost $1 billion. So that was not expected. So nice beat on revenue there. And again, the Q3 revenue guide was increased. They announced a high range of the Q3 guide of 13.6 billion. The estimate was only 12.6 billion. So they increased the guide by $1 billion as well. So I don't think their earnings are bad. Were their earnings like fantastical and amazing and everyone's dropping everything they can do to buy Intel right now? No. I mean, you could just look at the chart and see that. But, I don't think it's upsetting investors, the data that came out. If anything, I think it's given some, confirmation that, hey, Intel's still got a dog in the fight here, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. They beat revenue forecasts and increased revenue Q3 guide. So they're here. They're in the game, and let's see if the CEO can make good on his promises And they're not very far off from pulling a profit. You can see that on the income statement. Just look at the net income. Even just the past 2 quarters that they reported, I mean, they just barely didn't pull a profit. They're getting super close to pulling a profit. And I think once they do begin pulling a profit, the company's going to be just fine. You can go on the annual statement. And the last time they actually pulled the profit was in 2023. So it's only been a few years that they haven't been able to pull a profit. But if they can get back to the heydays where they're actually pulling a profit, I definitely think, not financial advice, but, go to the weekly chart. There's some major levels that can be retraced up on Intel. There's trading 22, in the $20 range. It's been trading like that for a while. Everyone who's been trading Intel knows that. It's been trading from, I don't know, we could probably call it like $18 to 27. We just call it like an 18 to 27 range. Anyone that's been trading Intel for the past year knows it's been stuck in that range. And if it can finally break above 27 with some momentum, obviously it's probably going to take some additional catalysts for that to happen. There's some pretty big levels that this could end up hitting, and there could be some great upside. So, again, not financial advice. My risk on it personally is, I don't like it below $17. Just keep it simple. That's, from where it's trading at now. It's trading at $23 right now and some change in after hours. So, below $17, what's that, like $6 risk from current price? So we could do the math on that. So let me just pull this over. $6 risk on 23 a share. Yeah, it's about 26%. So I definitely would want to make more than that on the upside if I was to enter the trade now. Of course, I would love to catch it on a pullback. In this range, it's been trading in from like 18 to 27. I mean, you can look back here. Just last month in June, it was trading below $20. So I'd probably prefer to get it below $20, to be honest with you. And then my risk on it would still be that $17 level. That way my risk would only be like $3 on the downside. If I could grab it around $20, that'd probably work out for me. Obviously $17 or $18, I think, would be a steal on this, because that's basically the low of the range it's been trading in for the past year. Okay, so I would love to scoop this up 17, $18. It was, let's see the lowest it got. Yeah, it was in 17 and some change in April. I'm looking at the 2-hour chart right now. Let me go 4-hour real quick. I get a better view. So it does come back to the lower side of this range every so often. It did it here, and let's just take a look here. So, it was in the teens here in June last month, and then it was around $18 in April. Came back to 19 in March, February. You could see, like, every month or every couple months, it gets back into the teens, under 20. That's where the deal's at for me. Personally, the next time it does go below 20, if and when, it might not go back below there again, but I personally think it will. I mean, Intel's definitely not out of the woods yet, right? They got a lot they need to work on. They got a lot of catching up to do, but I think, if they have the right people on the team and the CEO leads the charge, I think they'll probably be okay. I'd be willing to take a risk on it. If I could grab it, I'd say between 18 and $20 would be definitely an add for me. And then, if it rallies again to the mid 20s, that would be a solid gain just in itself right there. So, even if it doesn't break over that 27 level we were looking at on the weekly chart, you could definitely just trade the range, be smart about how you're entering and exiting the trade. Obviously don't buy it at the top of the range and sell at the low of the range. You want to do the opposite. I mean, it sounds easy, right? But you'd be surprised how many people don't look at the bigger time frames and the weekly, even the monthly chart. Pull those bad boys up, and you got to see where the value's at least technical analysis wise on these charts. And then your life starts getting a little bit better as far as trading goes. And it takes a little bit of patience. Some stocks you might have to wait a few months before you can grab it in the discount zone, if you will. And but you just got to be smart with your hard-earned money, and just don't try not to be firing off from the hip, and not really having a plan and stuff like that. But definitely, again, not financial advice, just me personally. I always pull up the bigger time frames first, and then kind of find out, number one, is it trading in the range? And if so, then we make a plan to try and snag it in the discount zone. If it's not trading in the range, then it's obviously trending. So either, if it's trending down, then of course, we got to be a little more patient and wait for a bottom to come in. At the very least, wait for the selling to slow down, and then maybe sell some cash secured puts to bring in some income while you're waiting for shares to appreciate or something like that. But there's all kinds of ways that you can go about doing this, and it's not just black and white all the time. There's several different ways to trade and put plans together with different theses in mind and theories and stuff like that. And it's just like anything else. It's the longer you do it. I've been trading for quite a while now, so it's just things you pick up over the years, and it definitely gets better. So if any words of encouragement to like any new traders out there, just just try and be as safe as you can. You don't need to swing for the fences all the time. And the longer you can survive in the game, the better you're ultimately going to be. And the more strategies you're going to learn, the more tips and tricks you're going to learn, and the more, just like anything else, the more practice is you're just going to get better at it. You're going to get better at entering and exiting trades. You're going to get better at setting up your risk and reward ratios before your trades, and over time, it's going to be a good thing. But you have to be disciplined, and you got to try and keep your emotions in check. You got to leave your emotions at the door. There's really no place for it. And I know it's hard to do that, because we're trading with real money here, and it can be nerve-wracking and emotional and stuff like that. If you find yourself getting too emotional with your trade or trades, there's probably one of a few things going on. Either you got too much money in it. That's usually the number one reason why people are, they can't sleep at night. They're setting their alarm clock for 4 a.m. Eastern to get up for the pre-market and all that. And it's just no way to live, right? And it's usually because you got too much money in it. Another reason, another issue I see people having, more so the newer traders, is when they're trading options, they don't put enough time on the contract, and that's a number one account killer in itself, is just trying to do these short DTE trades, and not only that, they're holding them overnight, and they're just getting crushed and smacked in the face with data, and they're just not sure what to do. Me personally, I usually have at least 3 to 4 weeks on my contracts. I am a swing trader by nature, and I usually trade the monthly expirations. But it's just some of the common things that where people or traders are running into trouble, and it's not really too hard to fix those things. You just need to work on reducing your allocation until your emotions are in check. And then if you're trading options, just put some extra time on it. It might cost a little bit more money, but the volatility with the premium on that contract isn't going to move as sporadically if you have more time on the contract. So just some very simple things. And also, if you're going to trade naked, I personally, most of my trades are sell to open. Okay, so I'm kind of on the other side of the transaction. I'm an option seller by nature. Kind of like a little mini market maker, if you will. I love writing contracts. I've been doing it for years, and that's just my go-to way of trading. So that's just what I like doing. It's a lot less stressful, a lot less emotion involved. And when I'm writing contracts, I can be a little bit more mechanical with my trades. And sometimes I just trade once a week on Fridays. And I target weekly and monthly income, and that's just what I prefer to do. It fits me and my personality and my lifestyle, and it's different for everyone. Some people, that's not for them. And I know people that do just all they do is day trade options and they do well at it, and that's just what fits them and their personality, and it works out great. It's not for everyone though, and everyone is going to trade differently because everyone has their own unique personality, and certain personalities aren't going to go well with certain strategies. So if you're a new trader, and the name of the game is, it's just, you got to survive as long as possible until you can figure out what strategy is best suits you. Some people, their personality, they're very good at swing trading. Some people are good at day trading. Some people, maybe they should just only be trading stock and equity. Other people, they might be more suited to options. It's different for everyone. I can't answer that question for you. So you have to kind of dig deep within yourself and be able to survive long enough to test out, even just start paper trading the different strategies. If you don't want to put your, even if you don't want to put your hard-earned money at risk while you're still trying to figure out what strategy works for you, just freaking paper trade it. And I know paper trading is, it's not realistic, and a lot of times with paper trading accounts you get favorable fills, and it's not too realistic, but it's realistic enough to figure out if a certain strategy gels well with you and your personality. So again, not financial advice, just making recommendations on what I would do if the clocks were rolled back and I went back in time and I was a new trader, and I had the knowledge I have now. Just some of the things that can probably help some of you out there who might be struggling on, maybe they're just trading one, maybe they think, trading options, all I just buy a call and hope, the value goes up and then I sell it, or same thing on the put side. But, maybe they think that's the only way to trade, and they're not aware that there's tons of other strategies. You can actually be on the other side of the transaction and become an option seller. You can do spread trading where it's multi-leg options on one trade ticket. And you can run the wheel strategy, selling cash secured puts to enter stock and then selling covered calls to get out of stock. I trade a lot of spreads and stuff and I do run a lot of the wheel strategy, but there are so many other different ways to trade. I just recently started trading diagonal calendar spreads with my coaching group over here in the Discord. More specifically, the Traders Paradise people that we all met in person in Chicago at our last in-person event. We were there for a whole week, and we went over a ton of stuff and live traded every day. But we just, and that involves buying. We're on the put side on those trades, so we're buying a longer dated put 3 to 4 months out, and then we're actually using that as collateral to sell weekly cash secured puts. And it's a way to reduce our buying power needed for the cash secured puts by like 80-90%. So we can still participate in selling weekly cash secured puts on some of these blue chip companies without needing all that ton of capital that would be required if you were selling the cash secured put by itself. So there's all kinds of creative ways to trade, and there's a lot of people that don't know. I know there's a lot of people that are very skilled and know a lot of different ways of trading, but I also know there's a lot of people that don't. And and that's basically what I do in the Discord is I like to help people discover new ways of trading that they didn't think was even possible, and more creative ways to formulate your trade. Even if you're trading stock positions, if you're worried about a market downturn and potential increased drawdown on just a simple stock equity position, there's a way, it's called the collar trade. We can slap a collar on it and protect your downside. We can use premium that we receive from covered calls to help finance going long on puts, which will cap your downside through intrinsic value just based on the strike price. So there's a ton of things we can do to manage positions, and that's what I do in the Discord. Is I like to lift up the hood of the car and let everyone take a look at the engine and show everyone what's under the hood, and really just try and educate people that there are many different ways to trade. So yeah, I kind of got a little sidetracked there for a minute, but so Intel's earnings out. I'm going to go to NEM real quick, and NEM's earnings are out. They are getting a positive reaction. Let me post Intel's data on the bottom of my screen, and then we're going to go over NEM, which is Newmont Corporation. And again, they're in metals and mining industry. So I'll get the EPS revenue and any guidance I can on NEM. Just give me 1 second to post this Intel data on the bottom of my screen, and then we'll move over to NEM. And that's a shout out to Demir from YouTube. I got you. No problem. Let me post this about Intel real quick, and then we'll move on to NEM, because I actually, thanks for reminding me, because I haven't covered that yet. Got over 700 people tuning in, by the way, a mixture of YouTube. I'm pretty sure most of it's from Twitter. We got a big presence on Twitter. We're also on Twitch and also Kick, and also over here in the Discord. What's up, Porterhouse and Tammy, D-Noof17, hope I pronounced that right, and of course the lovely Nikki's in the house. So I got the Intel EPS and revenue on the bottom of my screen. Again, solid beat on revenue, in my personal opinion. They did miss EPS, but they increased revenue for Q3 guidance. So that's good, a little increase on the guidance there. They are green in after hours, up just a little over 1%. After being a bit volatile, it wicked down just below 22, then came up to a little over 24, then retraced all the way back down. So lots of indecision in the first few candles. These are 5-minute candles now. And now it's kind of right back to where it closed the regular session at. So we'll see if it any more selling comes in. It is working on a 5-minute red candle right now. So I'll be looking to see if any bottom wicks form that show some buying pressure. Of course, you can cross-check the level 2 order book and just do a comparison of the bid and the ask and see if it's balanced, or maybe sometimes there's an imbalance, more weighted towards the bid, and that can tell you there's some buying pressure there, and vice versa for selling pressure. But let's go to NEM. They are got a positive reaction here. They were up. They basically were flat today. I mean, they closed yesterday's closing price was $61.42, and they closed the regular session today at $61.51. So up, 9 cents a share. So basically flat for a $60 stock. But here it is in after hours, up 2%. So investors are liking their earnings data. Let me go to my other monitor here and see if I got the EPS and revenue. It's a little past 4:30 p.m. Eastern now, almost 4:40 p.m. Eastern. We'll keep going here. Okay, so I got some data here. This is from the Bloomberg terminal, of course. And second quarter results: sales $5.32 billion. The estimate was $4.85 billion. So solid beat on sales. That's a pretty good grats to Newmont Corp. Attributable gold production 1.48 million ounces. The estimate was only 1.39 million. So their gold production line item from their earnings was a beat. Average realized gold price per ounce sold $3,320. The estimate was only $3,094. And let me put the price of NEM on the right side of the screen while I'm reading this. I just noticed I had Intel up and I'm reading NEM news. All right, got that fixed. So they got some solid beats on their line items, don't they? Free cash flow, $1.71 billion. Estimate was $811 million. They 2x the estimate. So they blew that one out the water. Nice and positive earning results from NEM. It's probably safe to say congratulations to the NEM bulls. It doesn't look like it's coming back down. Usually when the price comes back down right after an earnings catalyst and the stock pumps a little bit, if it's going to reverse, it usually reverses pretty quickly. So, it's been sitting up here for quite a few 5-minute candle prints, and did have one 5-minute print red, but everything else, and then there's a little red doji right here, but nonetheless, it's holding up quite good up here on the 5-minute time frame. So it's looking good for the NEM bulls. It's looking like a grats to y'all. INTC, that's a different story. I did really like their revenue beat, was good, and they increased Q3 revenue guidance, maybe the EPS is bothering investors a little more than we initially thought, because the initial move was a nice green candle. I mean, it did wick down to 21.92 first because of volatility, but the initial reaction was nice and positive. But I think as investors, fully digested the data and maybe realized how bad the EPS really is, we got some selling going on right now, trying to find the bottom. I guess you could say support level 1 would be this wick down to 21.92. I probably would just call that $22 to make it easier. It's okay if some of these levels are off by a 0.01 here, 0.01 there. It's fine. It's never going to be exact, but I'd probably just call that the $22 support right here. Nice, easy mental even number to remember. So that'd be my support one for Intel for the remainder of after hours. And of course, resistance level 1, probably just be, we're right at the top of this previous red candle. It's right around $23 a share. So very, very easy levels. $22 support, $23 resistance. Let's see if it can break one of those two. If it can get back above 23, maybe my confidence will start going up a little bit that this is in fact going to close the after hour session green. But until it gets back above 23, I'm not really going to have any confidence that it's going to close green here. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Let's see, since S1 is $22, let's see if it makes a higher low above that. And then maybe we're on this, maybe Intel's on to something here and it starts trending up. Also, don't forget, they got their earnings web call coming up. It's probably going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern. I can actually just get that info for everyone real quick before I sign off. Let's see when they're going to do their earnings web call. Let me just look it up real quick for everyone. All right, and okay, so again, NEM. Back to NEM because I didn't really cover that one much, but solid earnings data. Investors are liking it. It's up 3%, almost $2 a share up in after hours. Closed regular session at 61.51. It's trading above 63 now, 63 and some change. Investors are liking the earnings data. It's a lot. They kind of blew the forecast out in the water. Very good and solid results. We'll just take a peek at this real quick before I get the link to the earnings web call for Intel. But here's a nice little graphic here. So of course, the forecast EPS was $1.16. They reported $1.43. They beat that by 23%. Revenue forecast $4.92 billion. They reported $5.31 billion. Nice solid 8% beat on that. Year over year numbers look fantastic with double-digit growth. EPS up 99% year over year. Revenue up 21% year over year. Quarter over quarter numbers even look good. You got some growth there on the shorter term looking view. EPS up 14% quarter over quarter and revenue up 6% quarter over quarter. So that's just fantastic results so far by NEM. So let me go back here to Intel. So I know a lot of people are here for them, and let's find out how to get to their earnings web call. I'm just going to get the data from their investor relations page, and then I'll get a link for everyone. Okay, so here it is here. So right here on INTC.com, that link's pretty short, isn't it? So their corporate earnings conference call, of course, is today, and it's at 2 p.m. Pacific time, which means it's at 5 p.m. Eastern time. All right. So it's in about another 15 minutes or so, about 17 minutes to be more exact. All right. Then you're just going to click on this link here that says webcast. I suppose, yeah, I'll just post the regular INTC link because, the web call link is right there on the homepage. So let me post that. I mean, I don't think anyone needs to really screenshot it, right? I mean, INTC.com, it's okay. So pretty good there. I'll leave it up for a few minutes just in case. But anyways, once you click the webcast link, they might have you fill out a little form with your name and email. That you're not going to get spammed. It's okay. They're just trying to keep track of how many people attend the earnings call. And you might, so don't. It's fine. All right. So that's how you get to INTC's earnings web call. Again, I'm not going to leave that link up on the bottom of my screen for too long because it's just too easy. INTC.com. That's how you get there. Okay. So I'll put the INTC earnings results back up for now for anyone joining the stream new. I suppose let's figure out how to get to, again, that's 5 p.m. Eastern, so about 15 more minutes for the Intel's earnings web call. Let me get the link for NEM because we did have some people ask about NEM. So let me get the link to their earnings web call as well, and we'll find out what time they're going to be reporting. Give me 1 second here. Okay, same thing with them. I'm basically just going to their investor relations page. So even if you don't get the link, it's pretty easy to find this stuff. Usually it's right on the home page. You scroll down to upcoming events, and here it is here. Newmont's second quarter. Let me put their current price up here. So they are still green, up almost 3% in after hours. So still holding up quite nicely, to be honest with you. Anyways, their second quarter 2025 results conference call. It's today, and it's at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So about 45 more minutes for them. Okay. And I'll get the direct link for this one posted as well. And it's about 4:45 p.m. Eastern. And let me see if there's anything else I want to share with everyone. Here, let me post this link for Newmont real quick so people have a chance to screenshot that while I'm looking at something else to see if I need to share anything else with everyone before I sign off here. Just looking at my screen. Yeah, let me show, because I was showing everyone this JetBlue position I had the other day. I know JetBlue doesn't have the best financials and fundamentals, but I think overall, either they're going to get bought out. I mean, shoot, they just tried to buy another airline in recent times. So I've been trading JetBlue as a bottom feeder while they're trading down here in the $4 to $5 range. It's just been easy money. I've been trading JetBlue like that. Anytime they come down to that level, I've always started selling cash secured puts on them, and then once assigned, I'd sell the covered calls. I've been milking it. I usually average about $1,000 profit off each wheel I do on JetBlue, and I've done by it's been a few years since I started doing it on them. I've probably done maybe 10 or 12 wheels on them, getting about $1,000 of profit pop on each one. So I have a lot of fun with it. Here's the current position I have here. This account on Fidelity here. Actually, let me pull up the other one. Let me pull up the other one real quick. Okay, yeah, this account here. Shoot. All right, there it is. Okay, so this account here, this is the JetBlue position. I got 1,200 shares. My cost basis is 4.37. So you can see I'm about break even on my shares. The last price was 4.36. But what I did was I sold 12 covered calls for this Friday's expiration, and I got $15 each for them. And I just opened these the other day. So this brought in $180 for this Friday. So I'll get a little payday from JetBlue this Friday. And then what I'll do is I'll just keep rinsing, repeating those $4.50 strike price covered calls and until my shares get called. And that's actually my third or fourth trade on that. Let me open up my spreadsheet just so I can show everyone. Yeah, okay, cool. Here it is here. So I've been selling cash secured puts on this. I was able to get 2 rounds of cash secured puts in before I even got assigned. And now I'm on my 3rd round of covered calls, and I've just been rinsing, repeating this 450 strike the whole time, and brought in over $600 so far. So again, I usually get about $1,000 on these when I do them, and we'll see if my shares get called away on Friday or not. If they do, I walk away with $624 in net profit overall. If my shares don't get called away, I'll get to do another round of cash secured puts and bring in another few $100s, and it'd be just fine. So, I just, at the end of these earnings streams, I kind of like to share some of my open positions with everyone, get everyone a feel of kind of what kind of trading I do. I love writing contracts. That is the bread and butter of my trading. So, if you're interested in being on the other side of the transaction and becoming an option seller, not so much an option buyer, and I'm talking about the onset of the trade when you open it, all my trades are sell to open. So if you are interested in that way of trading, come join the Discord. There's some links in the description. If you do join the Discord, tag me in the chat. I'll come by and say hello. We can chit chat and talk about your situation, and maybe there's something I can help you out with right away. You never know. But yeah, that's really all the time I got for today. It's been about an hour. I do these earnings streams every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Yesterday was a fun one. Again, we went over Tesla and Google. Google ended up catching a bid. After all, initial reaction was negative, but it did end up catching a bid, and that was during their earnings web call. So that's another thing to think about with Intel and ticker and Newmont Corporation, as they may get a secondary move when they do their earnings call. We've seen that a lot. Look at NEM, Newmont Corp. They just made another after hours high. Keep your eye on this one going into tomorrow. Their earnings were a solid beat. And again, they're in metals and mining and basic material sector, if you will. So if you got a spot in your portfolio that you have reserved for basic material sector, maybe give this one a look. They just had good data. And matter of fact, let's see what their bigger time frame charts look like. So yeah, I mean, they've traded in the $80 range before, so it looks like there is still some upside here, and that's just based off of previous price action. Of course, it could go on to all-time highs and just keep going, but there's some decent levels to the upside with the stock still trading in the 60s here, and they just got solid earnings data. So again, not financial advice, but if I had an open space in my longer term portfolio, if you will, and I needed to allocate a little bit more to the basic material sector, I would definitely take a closer look at NEM. Solid beat all the way around with their earnings data. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Again, my name's the Swinging Bull. My real name is Benjamin. Most people call me Ben, but my Discord name is the Swinging Bull. So yeah, if you're looking for a new home, come check us out. We're very supportive. We give tons of education, live alerts, all that good stuff. But yeah, if you end up joining, I definitely look forward to meeting you. And other than that, I hope everyone has a fantastic night, and I'll see everyone in the very next stream. Cheers.